morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe should not be in this hellhole. We should have been out of this mess a long time ago. I accept we had the misfortune of having a corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical Zanu PF dictatorship at the formative stage of the country when we gained our independence in 1980. There's no denying Zanu PF is a party of thugs. But we cannot also deny that in the last 45 years of Zanu PF rule, we have not had opportunities to end the dictatorship. We had the opportunities to end the dictatorship. And occasionally one comes across videos such as this one here, Tsvangirai talking about reforms. Of course, we would not be in this mess if he had gone on to implement those reforms. All he was doing is, of course, pay lip service to those very issues. Let's just listen to this video clip.
Mugabe aende as a person. What are we going to do for the people of Zimbabwe? And the Isusu, Tirikuti Isusu, Tirikuda process, Yatinobvumirana tese, kuti chokutanga vamatemadanda, tinoda kuvaka a different Zimbabwe. Tinoda kuvaka a democratic Zimbabwe. Now, a democratic Zimbabwe is not going to be built by another undemocratic process. Now, continuation of Zanu PF's policies and the Zanu PF's character and the culture must end. The violence, the human rights abuses, the violence of the constitution must stop. So now we got a pass. Amatemadanda. Zimbabwe. I want to sit down and build from the beginning. My steps let's have a free and a fair election.
I'll not go any further than that. Of course, he was right. We should not be going round and round in circles. Did Tsvangirai have the opportunity to build a democratic Zimbabwe? The answer has got to be yes, he did. The 2008 to 2013 GNU was the golden opportunity for eMDC leaders to implement the democratic reforms which would have stopped Zanu PF rigging elections. That cannot be overemphasized. Why did they fail to implement even one token reform? Well, the answer to that one is simple. Robert Mugabe bribed them. He bribed Tsvangirai and his eMDC friends with the trappings of high office. The E Class Mercedes Benz limos for Tsvangirai, his deputy prime ministers, ministers and deputy ministers. very generous salaries and perks all round. And for Morgan Tsvangirai himself, the US $4 million mansion in Highlands, etc., etc. And while the eMDC friends were enjoying the trappings of high office, they forgot about the reforms. Zanu PF cronies boasted that Vazivanhu eMDC adzidza anyerere. When they were asked, why is eMDC leaders not implementing reforms? Of course they were right. eMDC leaders were so busy enjoying the trappings of high office, they forgot about implementing reforms. Not even one token reform. The irony is, most of the eMDC leaders are in denial that they failed, that they betrayed the nation. A few of them, Atham Tabara being one of them, has admitted that they did indeed fail the nation. This is a quotation going at the bottom of your screen there from his book. And he admits that taking their eyes, eMDC taking their eyes off the ball of implementing reforms was suicidal. It was suicidal. The tragedy with Zimbabwe is that even today, with the benefit of hindsight, the overwhelming majority of Zimbabweans out there have no clue that the GNU was the golden opportunity to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. They have no clue. Much less that the eMDC leaders sold out. When you have got such an electorate that is so ignorant, so naive, so gullible, it is no surprise that they've been conned again and again and again to do outrageous things. Ever since the GNU debacle, eMDC leaders have turned around and started participating in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, they were only giving Zanu PF legitimacy. But they've continued participating out of greed. And they've conned their supporters to participate, giving the process Zanu PF legitimacy. Biggest belief. In 2023, Chamisa told his supporters that Triple C was going to win big because he had plugged all the vote-taking loopholes. It was an idiotic lie because Tim Pachelu, a group of young Zimbabweans, had done an excellent job which showed that Zimbabwe's voters' roll was in shambles. How can you have elections when your voters' roll is in shambles? in the clip there, we had Tsvangirai talking of, oh, we don't want disputed elections. We don't want rigged elections. But if you don't have something as fundamental and basic as a verified voters roll, you're going to allow Zanu PF to rig. That is exactly what happened. Why millions, and not just a few hundred or a few thousand, millions, nearly 2 million Zimbabweans voted in the 2023 elections because they believed Jamisa's idiotic lie that he had plugged all the vote-rigging loopholes. How incredibly gullible can you be? But there we are. The truth of the matter is eMDC, CCC have become Zanu PF Team B in all but name, playing for Team A to win and for Team A to have legitimacy. The shocking reality is that the people of Zimbabwe themselves have been slow to realize that. How is it possible that in 25 years, the penny has not dropped, that eMDC leaders have failed to implement even one reform? And the truth is, it hasn't. And hence the reason why people still continue to support the eMDC CCC leaders blindly. Tsvangirai, at the beginning of that video, referred to something that is happening now. The gentleman he was talking about there, Matemadanda, is a war veteran. And at the time, he was one of the war veterans who was calling on Mugabe to go because he had failed. And let's just listen to that clip again.
What are we going to do for the people of Zimbabwe? And isusu tirikuti isusu tirikuda process yatinobvumirana tese kuti chokutanga vamatemadanda tinoda kuvaka a different Zimbabwe, tinoda kuvaka a democratic Zimbabwe. Now a democratic Zimbabwe is not going to be built by another undemocratic process.
That is an important point. We cannot be building a democratic Zimbabwe using an undemocratic process. Today, we have got another war veteran, Blessed Geza. Tomorrow is calling for an uprising. And the process itself has been marred in violence. He's not ashamed to admit it himself. In fact, he's proud of it. He has firebombed some of Mnangagwa's allies. And it is almost certain that there's going to be violence. I don't think Geza is the type who shy away from violence. The Zanu PF regime, the Mnangagwa regime, has also been hitting back. Apparently his house was firebombed as well a few days ago. This is a process that is replicating what is there already. And Gesa has never made it a secret that at the end of the day, he wants Chiwenga to be president. Chiwenga is just another Zanu PF thug. He is just as corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical as the rest of them. Chiwenga has been part and parcel of Zanu PF since the country's independence. He has played his part in various violent activities, including Gesa himself, by the way. One of the most notable ones was the 2008 violence that was designed to stop Tsvangirai getting into office, although the election of the March vote had given the eMDC the majority. Mnangagwa himself is on video boasting of his role in reversing that electoral process. Gesa, Chiwenga, and most of the people that Gesa is in the so-called the Gesa Chiwenga camp were involved in all those violent political activities. So at the end of the day, we are looking at replacing Mnangagwa with yet another dictator. How is that changing the process? How is that changing the country? It's not. We're just repeating the same mistake here. I think the tragedy for Zimbabwe is that leaders like Morgan Tsvangirai paid lip service to democratic change and failed to implement the reforms when they had the golden opportunity to do so. And this is what has landed us into this mess. I do not put any hope that the 31st March uprising would deliver any democratic change in Zimbabwe, even if it succeeded. And even if it did succeed, the chances are it will be a very violent process. And what is going to come out of it? Another version of what we have got right now. Not a democracy, but another dictatorship with a new dictator. It is a pity that the people themselves are so focused on Mnangagwa must go. They forget to look at who are we putting in his place. I refuse to accept this notion that we should focus on removing Mnangagwa and then think about what to do next afterwards. Because that was the same argument that was used in 2017. Let's focus on getting Mugabe out, and then we think of what next. Well, as it so happened, by supporting the coup, we gave it legitimacy. Mnangagwa and company had the confidence that they had the people's backing. Just like participating in these flawed elections have given the vote rigging Zanu PF regimes legitimacy. And that has allowed the 2017 coup to last these last 8 years. We don't want to give a new Zanu PF dictatorship legitimacy so that he could start his 10-year tenure confident that he has got the people's backing. I also refuse to accept that Mnangagwa can only be stopped by supporting the Gesa revolution. Mnangagwa, even if the revolution was to fail, for him to stay beyond the 2028 elections, he still has to amend the constitution. And the law says he has got to hold a referendum so that the people can approve it. I agree, he may rig the referendum. But like I said before, the people themselves, if they participate in the flawed process, they will, in their millions, they will give legitimacy to the flawed process. So the question is, stop participating. It's failure to recognize what you can do that is allowing people to do this. I would rather face Mnangagwa trying to get the referendum approved for the amendment of the constitution than face Chiwenga, which just had the backing of hundreds of thousands of people in this called Gesa uprising in the 2028 elections. Because like 2017, the people had the fever of, let's give Mnangagwa a chance. The chances are that fever will be repeated. Let's give Chiwenga a chance. And that's perpetuating the dictatorship. So in conclusion, it is important for people of Zimbabwe to realize that this whole tragic situation, political situation in Zimbabwe could have been easily avoided by now if eMDC leaders had implemented the reforms. And if the people themselves had not been so naive and ignorant to keep giving the rigged elections legitimacy because they were conned by eMDC leaders to participate in flawed elections. Participating in tomorrow's uprising is equally flawed. You will be giving legitimacy to a new Zanu PF dictatorship. The challenge is not to remove one dictator and only to replace him with another. The challenge here is to end the dictatorship. The choice before the people of Zimbabwe has been democracy or dictatorship, not dictator A or dictator B. Appreciating the subtle difference is at the heart of our problem. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.